All right, everyone. Welcome back to Student Dream TV. I am your host, Nina Uguomo, and this is where we just bring you the best money, investing, and startup tips so that you can secure the bag before and after graduation. And so as we continue our keynote series, I am so excited to welcome to the stage Art. He is an incredible creative director who's been bringing the sounds and stories of amazing artists and creatives to life via visual for the last decade. And so if you've ever wanted to be a full-time creative director who directs movies and music videos and other stories for some of the best Grammy Award-winning artists and creatives in the world, make sure you keep watching and keep listening. All right. How's that? Good?
You're good at that, man.
Okay.
You're good at that.
Thank you.
I feel like I was watching something.
I'm trying.
No,
Wow.
it's
So
great.
we left off talking about mind, body, and soul, which is so important because, you know, work is so much more than just the actions that we do, but it's us bringing our full self there, and we want to be a healthy, whole person. And I appreciate that. And I think my next question, I mean, you answered a lot of what I wanted to ask, and you talked about what you wish you knew when you were first getting started already. And so let's kind of dive into, you know, just for actually, did I ask you the 3 pieces of advice that you would give to aspiring directors? Did I ask you that?
I don't think we got there.
Okay. All right. So then my next question is just around just advice. You are steps ahead of many aspiring directors out there. And so my question is, what's like the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to aspiring creative directors who want to tell stories full time?
I would say 3 things off the top of my head would be: find mentors, find people that are going to be in your corner and help you elevate. Do what you can right now with what you have, because you may not have all the resources at your fingertips. You may not have everything that you need to do that great idea that you want to get to, but you have something. You can start somewhere, and you can start making steps. And that's the most important thing, is to start somewhere, because that's going to help you evolve. And then I would say thirdly, which I should probably have said first, is to spend time with yourself. Spend time with yourself to get to know yourself and go inside and figure out what are the things that make me unique and special. What are the things that I gravitate towards that make me feel like I'm a whole human being, because that's going to be your perspective. And when you're moving into the realm of anything creative, if you want to be a director, especially any type of director, you have to have a perspective. You have to have vision. You have to know where you want to go. And the only way that you know where you want to go is if you connect with yourself, if you connect with your ideas, you know, and you start to develop that. You have to develop that. I guess maybe I'll evolve that a little bit. You got to go inside to figure out those things, and then also then go outside to then, I think we talked about this before, but research, you know, find ways to expose yourself to new ideas and to things that are outside of the things that you're used to. Other culture, all of that can really help to develop your taste, to develop your idea of what's out there. Because the first thing that's going to happen is when you get into a creative project is they're going to ask you what your ideas are, and you're going to try to explain them. And when you start to explain those ideas, you'll have your words, but then you'll also be able to use other references from the things that you've learned in the world, and people can relate to that. They'll be like, oh, I know what you mean when you talk about your idea, and then you explain it with these 3 references, because I know what those things are. Does that make sense?
That does. I mean, when I think about where I was in 2017, I felt like I was on this creative high. I would be getting inspired by pineapples and clouds. I was just and going to the zoo, going to the botanical gardens. And I
Yeah.
realized, I was like, yo, a lot of these creatives, from my perspective, they're just going to the zoo because there's so much inspiration that I was drawing from just seeing just the structure of a unique animal. Or
Mm.
when I look at the clouds, and a lot of times Sundays, that's my day, where I just call it active curiosity, where
Ooh, I
I just,
like that.
where I get to research those things that just interest me. So for example,
Yeah.
I think clouds are amazing. They're like moving art, pun intended.
Yeah. 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 I like that.
You
I
know what
think
I'm
that that's
saying?
amazing.
And
Yeah,
it's
I
so
love
dope.
that.
So I looked up clouds and just, cumulonimbus, cumulostratus, and it's just mind blowing. So I
That's
feel
funny.
you on that.
I was thinking about that in like a while back when we could be outside. I was in an
Right.
Uber and I was looking out the window and I started researching some cloud names as well. I remember that one. That's so
Wow.
interesting because, yeah, man, there's beauty and art all around us, and you just need to
Yeah.
be aware. Open your eyes and just be able to, like you said, play games like that. Make a day to do something.
Yeah.
Make a date with yourself. There's a book that's really awesome called The Artist Way, and
The artist's
that
way.
that book is wonderful to find techniques to help you get to know your inner artist, because we all have a voice. We're all artists.
Yes.
Even people that don't feel like they're creative at all are artists. They have a perspective. They see the world in their own individual way. And
Yes.
so this artist way, they talk about one of the concept is an artist date, is to take
Mm.
yourself on a date, take your artist on a date to go out and do something that makes it happy. And that depends on you. That could be going to the park and having a picnic. That could be going,
That's good.
that could just be like, if we're talking about right now, then that could be going on a museum's website and doing a virtual tour. That could be taking yourself down a pathway of your favorite director and watching their filmography,
Mm.
and then you're just basically immersing yourself and your artist in like new experiences that excite you. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing. That's a great way to think about it. Just feed into that curiosity.
Yeah. It's so necessary. And I think a lot of times, I mean, I've been in those places where I just had to hustle, money was tight. And so I think it's easy to forget how important it is to feed your soul, but that stuff
Mm.
feeds our soul. We can't forget about
Oh yeah,
mind,
man.
soul, body, and money, so we got to
Yeah,
feed
I
that.
mean, yeah, because I've gotten to places, and I've gotten into positions where I've had money and I felt pretty unsatisfied
Yeah.
because I didn't have that sort of alignment going on. So I'm talking from experience when I say that I got
That's
to
good.
a position where I had a really good job and I was really secure with money, and I didn't have to worry about that, but then I still felt something missing. and
Yeah.
and I felt like when I was traveling and I was backpacking through Europe, or when I lived in my car for a year when I was traveling across America, I felt more freedom and more I felt more fulfilled in those moments when I didn't have any money than when I had money. It was just because of the
Right.
alignment. It's all the alignment, and
Yeah.
balance is very, very, very important.
No, that is a big fact. One of the ways that we define wealth at Student Dream is that it's to keep more than you spend with integrity, joy, and generosity. Right?
Mm.
Because we think wealth is so much more than money. I want to share with you the
Yeah.
music video that we actually created with a group of high school kids. I think you'll
Oh,
really love it.
cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, I would love to see that. I would
Yeah,
love
it
to see
talks
that.
all about that.
Sick.
And so you mentioned mentors, and you mentioned that, one of the real big mentors in your life has been Swizz Beatz and Alicia Keys. And
Yeah,
when we
sure.
think about verses, like, talk about essential work during this time of quarantine. It has been
Absolutely.
absolutely essential work, because like I always say, this music just speaks to our souls in ways that nothing else could. And verses has been just one of the biggest and most therapeutic
Mm-hmm.
moments that we've experienced Saturday nights. And you mentioned that Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz have been, you know, mentors of yours. Like, what has been the best advice, you know, or guidance you've received from them?
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, I mean, Swizz and Timberland, those guys are complete visionaries. You know,
Mm.
I've worked with Swizz for over 6 years, and I work and Alicia as well. Versus has definitely been a healing
Yes.
way for us all to connect, and through music, this has been an awesome education for people too, to be able to experience music that they may have never heard before, and from artists that are legendary.
Whew.
And so
That's good.
it's such a remarkable tool. It's such a remarkable time for it to be happening, and there's such a I don't know, there's so much to say about how they've done it, you know, how they've made it very attainable. You know, they didn't make people pay for it. They didn't put it
Come
in
on.
they didn't put it places where people couldn't access it. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure they've gotten plenty of opportunity to do all that, but they wanted to make something, and they've talked about it, that was for the people. Swizz says it all the time, you know? And so that's, you know, what does it say? By the artist, for the artist, with the people. That's really important. It's really important. So I think that's really respectable, and it's really remarkable how they've taken this idea and created such a moment for people to experience together. And for the artists,
for
you
the
know?
artist, with the people. I love that.
By the artist, for the artist, with the people. And then what I would say, you know, working with Alicia and Swizz has been, you know, some of my greatest life work. They've definitely helped shape me to who I am. And I would say the biggest piece of advice that I've gotten from Alicia first is to boss up.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Explain, and, you know, tell me more. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Alicia I wouldn't Keys. Expect that, because it sounds very like, yo, like I see her be like, boss up.
That's the thing. That's the thing, you know, and I think that's probably why it hit me, you know, because of how, you know, because of the bright spirit that she is. Like, there's so many things that she's told me over the years, but that one piece of advice, to boss up, meant so much to me in that moment, because I was in a space where she saw me creating a lot. She knew I had great ideas,
right?
And I was making a lot of beautiful things, and I was, you know, really focused on making ideas, you know, and like coming up with great ideas. But she wanted me to be a well-rounded creative. She wanted me to not just be someone who could come up with ideas, but someone who could execute the idea as well. And at the time,
good. That's a word.
And at the time, I was more involved in just like, you know, being kind of like this airy creative, and you know, we can get like that, but there is a very business oriented side of creativity that is really important, because, you know, you don't get to a place where Alicia is without having your business right. And that's the thing, is like, she's a very creative person, but she's also very business oriented, and I've learned that from her. And so that was really important for me to learn at that time, because I needed to learn how to be better organized. I needed to learn to be better directed in how I explain ideas.
That's good.
And I just needed to be more put together as a businessman, you know? And so now, with the idea that you can balance the creative with the business, it allows you to be much more of a force in the industry. I mean, forget the industry, it allows you to be a better force within yourself. You can, you have more power with that. So that's the biggest piece I learned from Alicia. Alicia told me to boss up.
Boss up. Let's go.
Yeah, man.
That's such sorry, keep going.
And then I think, and then Swizz told me, sometimes Swizz told me sometimes you got to leave to come back.
Hmm.
And at the time, you know, he was telling me a story of when he was with the Rough Riders and when he first started, and he was with a group of people that started together. But it wasn't until he went on and he won Grammys and he had these amazing successes in music that he was able to come back. And then his people that he was with at the time could see all the things that he was talking about way back then, you know? He had all these ideas, but it wasn't until he achieved it that the people that were directly around him could see it.
Yeah.
So I think that happens for a lot of us, is that we outgrow our circumstances. We outgrow our we can outgrow friendships, we can outgrow just our circumstances. And so you have to sometimes leave and
Wow.
go out into the world and be alone, or not alone, but just to be that you need to evolve on your own, and then you can come back and people can see you differently. You might have had the experience, maybe you have the experience of like being at home with your parents, and then like you go off to college and then you come back and they want to treat you like you're younger.
Right.
They want to treat you like how you were when you were a kid. But like, you know, you've been out and you've had all these experiences and you live life on your own, and so you feel like independent, you know?
Yeah.
And then you spend time with them and they can see that you've grown in this way, and so they come to accept you as a whole new person. So that was coming at a really important time in my life, where I was making a decision to move from working with Alicia to then pursuing my own directing career.
Nice.
And it was a big jump for me. And so I think that was probably the biggest piece of advice that I got from Swizz.
Wow.
You got to leave to come back.
Leave to come back. Boss up, leave to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, they're interesting. They're interesting, you know, and everything. Advice works in the way where it's like different for people. Like what I say might not connect, but those are the things that really meant a lot to me at the time from them. And I've learned so much from them over the years. It's just like countless gems, for real.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when I think about, you know, music business, especially for the creatives listening, we often see creatives, whether you're a visual artist or a creative director, just struggle to get that full-time income, you know, coming through so you can support yourself. Mm-hmm. And so walk me through, what do you think are some of the missing links with really being able to not just create, but to be able to make a profit off of what you create? You studied music business, you know, you've learned about what it looks like to boss up. Any pieces of advice when it comes to really being able to actually support yourself and own your creative work?
Yeah, you know, you gotta know your value. You know, you gotta know your value, and I'm not gonna, you know, I can't skip around it. There's a you're talking about the business of creativity, and we work in a field where you have to put in a lot of skin in the game before you start making money back on that. And it's a lot of hustle. It's a lot of just focus and determination. And honestly, money can't be your mission when you're working working in this field, because otherwise you go into another field. You'd go into a field where it's guaranteed that you'd be on a track and you'd make a certain amount of money with a certain, you know, position. When you're an entrepreneur, you're taking a chance, but you're taking the best chance. You're taking a chance on yourself.
Come on.
You know? And so the thing is, if you're taking chances, then it's not always going to be secure. There's times where, I mean, right now I'm out of work, you know? And so it's like, I've had moments where I've been really comfortable, and then there's been moments where I've had to struggle. We call it feast and famine in the creative world. It's like everybody knows that you're going to have moments where you're good, and there's going to be moments where you need to struggle a bit more. And that's the important part, I think, about saving your money, you know? And so I think when you're in the creative field, you make you make do with those moments when you're doing really well and you're able to make money from your craft, and then you try to save as much as you can for those rainy days when you need to be a little bit more lean.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think about how to answer your question about.
I mean, you talked about it. You said, you essentially just said having skin in the game, understanding that, like, if is this really what you want to do? Because money shouldn't be your ultimate. Obviously, it's part of it, but it's not your ultimate. Knowing your value. I mean, I think you hit on a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking about, for me, what was like the transition point.
I mean, you started a record label. You had I just think that you were doing it from this jump from your story.
It's a lot of trial and error, I remember when I was here. I'll give you a story that's I haven't thought about in a long time. It's completely unrelated, but here's a story. I was living in my car in New York, and this is when I met Alicia, and I had met one of my friends that was working at a creative agency, and she was the client that they were working with, and they needed a director. And wow. I walked in because I had my friend there, and he recommended me. And then that's how I met Alicia, and I directed a music video for her. That was the first time that I met her.
Nice.
And then I did the video, but I didn't get paid a lot for it because I was just like, I was trying to position myself, so at that point it was more about getting the introduction, about doing the good work and building a great relationship than it was about getting the money for it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I was working at a nightclub doing photography, and they pay me like a couple $100 for the weekend of like going to the club all night and like taking pictures and like delivering the photos and whatever.
Nice.
And then one day I went into the office, and I thought, man, I'm worth more than this and I want more than this. So then I said, hey, look, I will not only take pictures for your club, but I'll also make videos for these special events, and I'll start doing the branding. I'll run I'll make a website for us. And I started to like kind of elevate the marketing, Yeah, exactly. I was trying to elevate the marketing, and then they said to me, and I said, but I want $1,500, $2,500 like a weekend. And I raised the price, and I stood in there, and I was so scared, like, cause I wasn't seeing that money at all. I was living in my car.
Yeah.
And then the owner of the club looked at me, and he was like, I think that you could do this, and this sounds amazing, but we just don't have the money. And then he was like, I can give you, and he gave me a little bit of a raise. It wasn't even worth all the work that I was going to do. So I was like, right then and there, I had the decision whether or not I was going to just say no and then leave that thing, or I could figure out something else that was of other value.
Right.
And so what I told him was, if you teach me how to open my own club, if you mentor me,
wow,
then I'll do all this stuff. But that would be of value to me too.
Yeah.
And so every week we went out to lunch, and he became my mentor for the next year. And he was a really powerful person in my life that helped me to get on the path of learning a lot of the things that I know now. But I didn't get any money out of that proposition. What I did was I got a different kind of value,
Right.
I got education. And so that was really important for me too. So
it's a really, really good point, guys. Again, wealth is so much more than money, y'all. And it's important to think holistically. Like, that is hugely valuable and transformative. Just to, again, that's your mind. We talk about mind, body, soul. That's your mind being invested into.
Yeah.
But this is it, Art. My soul is full, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for
taking the time. Yeah, my pleasure. And I always like to end, by really talking to the audience, Y'all, we've talked so much about investing in yourself. At the end of the day, I know you probably came on here thinking, yo, I'm going to learn exactly how to become a full-time creative director, filmmaker, but really, how are you going to invest in yourself, y'all? What actions can you take now to invest in your mind, your body, your soul? Because you are the greatest investment you can ever make. And as always, talk is cheap, talk is broke, and time is money. So let's get started today to invest in yourself, y'all. I will see you next time on Student Dream TV. We love you guys. We're rooting for you. And go watch a good movie. Go listen to some disco. Awesome.